And there we go. We're live. Another episode of Clean Breakthrough brought to you by Greenville Transitions. Skirp. What do we have today? Today we have some rapid fire recovery questions. Don't know how rapid they'll be because we tend to go down little side quests.
For sure. Big side quest energy, 100% completionist.
ADHD rampant.
Yeah, not doing the main mission until it's the last thing to do. All right, I've got the first one. What's the difference between sobriety and recovery? Why don't you let it rip?
Okay. To me, my initial thought, and I think it also just rings true, but to me, sobriety is like a mindset change, like a decision has been made, and recovery is a lifestyle change. Like you're looking at the overall, the bigger picture. So one's like a 10-foot view. Sobriety to me would be like the 10-foot view of standing on the second floor balcony looking down at it, and then recovery would be the 40,000-foot view of like flying over, looking down at, hey, let's look at the bigger picture and what all do we need to change to make this happen. Yeah, so that's like my initial thought. And then to break it down even further, to me, sobriety is like deciding I'm going to step away from substances and keep these specific substances out of my life. And recovery would be, how do I mold my life to make it to where I don't even want to turn this up, to where those aren't even a factor. What about you?
Very good. I think you stole most of mine. I think we just think really similarly about it. And I think a lot of people in recovery do. But yeah, that would be my thing too. If like sobriety is just quitting alcohol.
Or pills or
pills or whatever. Just it's the
Yeah.
word sobriety. So I normally just think about alcohol, but like, yeah, just quitting whatever the substance is, putting it down. I find that a lot of people that I know, and not to lump everyone in, but a lot of people I know that do it for like weight loss, health, maybe just don't like the way they feel, don't like hangovers, think that they could do better at their life or their job without it, but not like some serious dire consequence, not as much like waking up in jail, losing relationships, stuff like that. And I think we're seeing a lot of that. I feel like I keep seeing trends and data that young people are quitting alcohol at higher rates than ever before, or just choosing not to drink.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, then I was going to say, and then recovery feels more like I have to change like everything in my life to stay off alcohol and drugs so that I can stay alive. Like it just feels more dire to me. Like I have to look at my level of honesty and discipline and service to others and thinking of others, selfishness, like I just have to take, like you said, that big 40,000-foot view above, because like those are the things that my recovery hinges on. So it's not as simple to me as just a decision of like, I'm just not going to drink anymore, but everything else can pretty much stay the same. It feels like most everything needs to change, if not go, and I need to create new stuff.
Yeah. I was going to bring up something really random, and it's the first side quest. It's when you said that there is a trend of not as many people drinking. Drinking seems to be on a downward trend right now. Say that word again. But it also, I wonder how much of it is just being replaced with, because I'm also seeing these like weed or CBD infused drinks. Those seem to be on the upward trajectory and being consumed a lot more. So is it just trading this for that thing, or is it, hey, we really are going more towards health? And I guess you could make the argument that like, oh, I am still trending into a healthier way if I'm dropping alcohol and I'm just going with this THC or CBD infused drink. But are you going from one mind altering substance to another, or are we really focusing on recovery here?
Yeah. And that's where I would say that it seems like it's not as much about recovery as it is just kind of not liking alcohol. Like I think alcohol is just not making as much sense to people of like, all right, I drink it, it costs money, it's all these calories. And then I wake up the next day and I feel terrible. Like it really doesn't make sense on paper. If you like drink to drunkenness, it really I don't think it's an easy sell. But once you get the feeling of it, then it's like, oh man, I get it now. Like it's worth all that until the next morning, and then you're like, it's not worth it. So yeah, I think just on paper, it's just a harder and harder sell. And if someone can have some THC drink, feel a little buzzed, sleep pretty normal that night, wake up the next morning, no hangover, I mean, it's kind of a no brainer that that's what people are going to go more towards. I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner, like in history at large, or like, I don't know what, I don't know why it's happening now, but I feel like,
Yeah.
and I mean, that's coming from me, an alcoholic who would drink to drunkenness almost every time and overdrink.
Hmm.
But yeah, stepping back, it just doesn't make a lot of sense on paper.
Yeah. While you were talking, I looked up the definitions of sobriety and recovery. So the definition of sobriety is it usually refers to the absence of substances. A person
Mhm.
is sober when they are not actively using drugs or alcohol. Recovery's definition is a broader, deeper process of change that includes sobriety but goes further. It's about rebuilding a meaningful life, addressing the root causes of addiction, and healing mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And for me, I like to take that a step further and say it's about healing fear. Like it's about pinpointing our fears and addressing those and working through them, and working through the resentments and the um, emotions that are attached to those fears.
Yeah, I think that I agree with everything you said, and it's interesting that it includes drugs in the definition. I think you can get so bogged down in like different 12-step groups that use different lingo, where it's like, no, here we say alcoholic or sober, and here we say addict and clean, and it can kind of almost become tribal, where you're like, okay, so then sober can't mean drugs because they only do that in the one that has to do with alcohol, and don't say you're an alcoholic in the other one because they might not, and I'm not saying all meetings are like that, but some can be.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting, those definitions. And I think that recovery to me, and similar to what you said, I think it's like the diminishment or like the acceptance on some level of fear, and then uh like the magnification of love, like fear going down, love going up,
Yeah.
like really in the most broad sense, like summed up, that's like the goal.
Yeah. Absolutely. This was an interesting point too that it added in. Is it said, um, but sobriety alone doesn't mean healing.
Hmm.
Another definition or for recovery is healing.
Yeah, I mean that gets into a dicier a dicier topic of like California sober and what is sober. And some people are like, well, I quit heroin and now I just drink, and that's recovery to me. And then it's like, well, is recovery like is there any like objectivity to recovery, or can it mean anything to anyone? And if it does mean anything to you, am I really under the same tent as you? Like, how big is this tent? And if it gets too big with not enough supports under it, is it going to collapse? You know? And I
Yeah.
don't know that it should be so fractioned off of like, well, I'm sober off meth and I'm sober off heroin and I'm sober off, and we have nothing in common and we need to be in different tents. Like, I think that abstinence model is kind of one tent, and that's kind of one thing. And then there's like other tents that like are great for people. Like, listen, I'm for you. Like, if you quit heroin and all you do now is drink and smoke pot, and that works for you in your life, and you're happy and successful and feel good about it, it doesn't mean anything. That's nothing bad to me.
Yeah.
But it does feel weird when you're like, so like we're the same. And I don't know if there's like something that's kind of almost like borderline like insulting about it, I guess, if I'm being honest. That's just like, but I quit like everything.
Yeah.
And that's like really hard to do because there's a lot of days that I'd like to come home and drink a beer or smoke some pot, especially in the beginning. And then I feel like that would have made it easier, not in reality, but so it's just like such a complicated subject because I don't want to diminish it for people, but I also don't want to act like we're all the same.
Yeah. You could take it a step further than that and say, like, well, I quit everything and I even nicotine and sugar and
Yeah.
but let's go back to California sober because I've heard that a lot. And I really I don't even think is it just like you quit harder substances, but then you still smoke weed and drink? Is alcohol included in California sober?
I think the original definition was you just smoke pot. You
Okay.
quit everything else and you just smoke pot. I think I hear it a little more broadened out now where it's like maybe I drink and smoke pot, but quitting harder stuff, meth, heroin, coke, crack,
Yeah.
pills.
I heard this was a funny video I saw the other day, but it was a guy saying that he was Portland sober. And he was like, yeah, so like all of the hard stuff, I obviously don't do that, but like I still smoke weed, do a little bit of ketamine, mushrooms on the side, a little bit of acid here and there, never hurt anybody.
Yeah.
But
Or
like,
dude, just at some point you're like, what does it even mean anymore?
yeah,
It's like, so you just do drugs and you do different drugs than you used to do.
yeah.
Like, I don't know where sober like belongs in there at all if you still do drugs.
Well, and to be fair, we even have like doctors are included in some of those treatments like ketamine. I mean, that makes it a really hard line to walk or to know what is sober
Mm-hmm.
when now I can go get high over here with the help of this doctor in this facility. I don't know.
Well, and it goes like a little bit deeper because it's like this argument from authority of like people could do it with like laws, that it's like just because it's a law means that it's moral or right. Where like some laws can be immoral or unjust. And we kind of figure that out over time and look back at it now of like old laws, and we're like, whew, that's crazy. That used to be a law. Like that was such a bad thing to do. And then I think it's the same thing, that argument from authority with doctors, that they're just like this perfect class of people that does everything right and doesn't get anything wrong. Because let's not forget that like what 25-ish years ago was like when the opiate stuff was all kicking up and they were like totally bought and sold by uh like pharmaceutical industries. They push that like pain scale that we're still asked today in every doctor visit, even when you're going in for like a checkup. They're like, what's your pain on a level from 1 to 10? And they got that worked in there as like a vital sign equal to your temperature, your weight, all those types of things. So, I mean, I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, but it's just like, I don't like really care what doctors say sometimes
Yeah, I'm with you.
because they can get it really wrong. And we've seen them get it really wrong. They prescribed Quaaludes and barbiturates in the 70s and 80s, and those aren't legal anymore. They used to prescribe cigarettes, and that's like seems crazy.
Cocaine.
Cocaine, if you go way back, heroin, if you go way back.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, maybe those things have some medicinal value. But then they also have abuse potential. And I mean, opiates obviously can fall in that same category, but I just think doctors can be very corrupted when you add in like money and power and influence and pharmaceutical industries and all this stuff together kind of makes a much more complicated picture where when it's just like, hey, 9 out of 10 doctors agree ketamine's good for you. It's like, I'll take a break on that. Let's wait 20 years and see how that ages.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm suspicious.
I'm with you. I'm a little suspicious too. Well, we told you rapid fire jokes on you. Not so rapid. Also,
Nothing rapid about it.
Cole is not with us today. He had some stuff going on. So if you miss his sweet little bald head shining in the background, I'm sorry. You'll see him next week.
Next week. So next one is, what lie did you believe the longest in active addiction? And I guess since you started on the last one, I'll start on this one. actually made this a topic at a 12-step meeting I was at a couple weeks ago. And um, I think the lie I believed the most was that like my life would be over. I wouldn't have any fun. It was going to be like boring and miserable. And life was just something I was going to have to like suffer through. I just could not imagine my life without drugs and alcohol having any meaning, purpose, fun, enjoyment, happiness. And I always joked that it was like, you know, sign me up for like the white picket fence in the minivan, have a wife and 2.5 kids, and go work in a cubicle somewhere. And I think that that was a really damaging lie that I told myself with little to no evidence to back it up, and really just became a giant excuse to not go get sober. But that's me.
Yeah. Um, I would say I think the biggest, absolute biggest lie I told myself was that I could manage it.
Mm.
Was that I could keep. And I would have told you if you would have called me out on it in the process. I was like, oh, well, it's because I'm still figuring it out. I'm still like tweaking things and I just haven't found the right mixture yet of like the amount of weed I'm smoking with the amount of heroin that I'm doing, with the amount of alcohol that I'm drinking. Like I just have to find the right mixture to my cocktail and then it's going to solve all my issues. But yeah, looking back, the lie that went on the longest was like, I'm going to figure out how to manage it, but so that I don't have to stop it. And eventually it'll like fix all my problems. That's what I wanted to believe so bad.
Mm-hmm. That's such a good one. Just doing some good old fashioned research and development.
Oh
Still,
yeah,
still tinkering with the formula, trying to get it right.
hitting the lab, baby.
Yeah, I feel like that goes on literally forever until you get sober, and it's all just like a deflection of like I'm not the problem, and the way I use drugs and alcohol isn't the problem. I just haven't figured out the right formula yet
Mm-hmm.
to nail it and get sufficiently high and drunk without having all these consequences.
Yeah, and conveniently, it gave me a lot of excuses too. Of when my mom would call me out on still being high, or messed up, or spending a bunch of money on drugs and alcohol, I could say like, "Yeah, but at least I'm not doing this. Now I'm doing this. Like I'm not. At least I'm not addicted to methadone anymore. Now I'm just smoking weed and taking um, a hydroxy or a hydrocodone every once in a while."
Yeah, that's so funny because it's like the I don't know if it's like a false binary technically, but I mean it's you get called out for something and then you quit it and start doing something else and you're like, well God, when I was doing heroin that was a problem and now I quit that and I'm smoking weed and now that's a problem. It's just like, yeah, more than one thing can be a problem. Like, but I just thought that was such a slam dunk argument of like, I quit the thing you wanted me to quit and now I'm doing something else, like, and now that's a problem too. Like, what do you want from me? It's
Yeah,
like, dude, I want you to stop doing all drugs and alcohol because none of them go well.
yeah. We've even had younger guys, come to our program and be like, kratom, like that's okay here, right?"
Oh yeah. Dude, my favorite was a guy that's really near and dear to us. I remember, and we worked with him 2 times, and he's doing really well today. But the first time we worked with him, he said he was like, "Man, like, what are y'all gonna do when weed becomes legal in South Carolina? Like, everything's headed that direction. It's definitely gonna be soon." I remember looking at him like so confused of just like, dude, alcohol is legal, right? And like he hadn't thought of that and was like, oh, dang. Shit. Like it just completely stopped it of just like, again, back to that thing of like, I don't really care like what's illegal and not. Like kratom's legal, kava's legal, alcohol is legal, weed is legal in a lot of states, ketamine's legal, opiates are legal if you get prescribed them by a doctor, benzos are legal if you get them prescribed. Like legal isn't really what we're concerned with here. It's just like what substances are mind altering and like fall into that purview of like are going to cause issues for you.
Yeah.
But man, he thought, you could tell when he was saying it, he was like, I'm about to hit him with this and he's going to have to let me smoke weed in the sober living house.
Yeah. The invincible bubble he didn't think could be popped.
Yeah, that was good. All right, on to the
What's
next one. If your addiction had a voice and personality, what would it sound like?
I'll go first on this one. So at first,
I would think that it would sound like this.
Yeah.
But in reality, I think it sounded like this. Like,
All right, explain in that voice, please.
like a scary monster voice is the first thing that comes to mind that I got to take it off.
the first thing that comes to mind is like this sinister, like you said, monstrous voice that's like, do the bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, I think it was this very comforting, silly voice that's like, oh, you're not going to harm anyone. You're going to be just do it. Just take the thing. It's going to be fine. We'll figure it out. So I think it was more of this like goofy, fun, loving voice
Mm-hmm.
that would coax me into it.
Yeah, more like loving and gentle
Yeah.
and
What about you?
alluring. Mine's got to be Emperor Palpatine from the third prequel Star Wars when he's looking at Anakin when they're fighting Mace Windu, played by Samuel L. Jackson, and he kind of has this option of like, all right, like which side am I going to go with? I can like attack the Emperor and probably kill him, or I can help him attack Mace Windu and kill him. Like, what road am I going to go down? And Emperor Palpatine says, "Do it. Do it now." And I feel like that was always the voice. It's just like, I remember, like I still had a conscience. I just didn't listen to it, and would just try to smush it down with like alcohol and drugs. So just thinking like, but God, if I do this, like if I steal this thing from someone, they're going to be really upset, but they won't find out for a while. But when they find out, man, I'm going to be in big trouble. And then it would always just kind of be like, do it. And then that was it. It was like, just do it anyways. Don't think about it. Like smush that voice down.
Yeah.
The voice that's probably more, I don't know what it would sound like, but it's just like, this is a bad idea. You're going to hurt this person's feelings. It's not okay to steal. What are you doing? You weren't raised this way.
Yeah.
Cut it out, big guy. Yeah. And that one was like, ugh, push it down. Don't want to listen to that. That voice is no fun.
Mm-hmm.
Do it. Do it now.
Now I'm gonna have to go watch that clip because I don't remember it.
You don't remember that?
Well, I haven't
watched it in forever.
Oh,
Like it's just so baked into like mainstream culture. Emperor Palpatine, do it.
Are you gonna share your screen?
Will the volume come through?
Probably not. I don't know. If you share your screen, I would think.
Well, I just found it here. Just for at least the volume.
And you're not going to stop there. No.
Oh, what the heck is that?
Yeah. What are you waiting for?
Ah, this is like combined with Shia LaBeouf doing something crazy.
Shouldn't. Do it.
Do it.
Yeah, even with the like I shouldn't. It's wrong. Do it.
Yeah.
It's just like, all right, here we go.
Pretty accurate.
I got to get a better clip for that at some point. But all right, we're moving rapidly now.
Yeah.
What's one normal thing that still feels foreign or amazing in sobriety? A normal thing. Gosh, the first thing that comes to my mind is having money. And not like a lot of it or a ton of it or anything like that, but just like having money at all. Because I feel like when I was doing drugs, it was just like If I got $300, the first thought in my mind was, how can I spend $300 on drugs immediately? Like, how can I just convert this money instantly into drugs and then do that for the next 3 days or just even that night?
Yeah, but as a guy that knows you, I
Okay.
would say you continued with that personality for a long time into your recovery.
Yeah. So I'm thinking more like today.
Shoes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking like more today. But yeah, you're right. That's something I've had to work on a lot over the years.
Yeah.
Didn't change.
And you
instantly.
definitely shifted a lot now, and I'm just saying that to throw out the expectation that that might not come first week, first month of recovery, because
Yeah.
I think people still try to fill a void in
Yeah.
other ways.
And we see that with guys in sober living too, right? Where they're like, and it's so relatable. I always have to tell parents too, that it's like, they're like, is that like a really bad sign? Does that mean he's not going to make it? And it's like, no, it's the most normal thing ever that he's like spending $30 a day at the QT on energy drinks and nicotine vapes and pouches and snacks and Reese's and Doritos and all this stuff. And I don't even think it's so much about like what they're spending money on as much as it just kind of feels good to spend money and get that dopamine hit from buying stuff. We'll have guys that are like fixated on Amazon and always want to order stuff there. That always want to go up to some store, get new shoes, get this, get that, and that money just burns a hole in their pocket.
Yeah.
But I think like anything that's going to change in recovery is not going to change instantly, and it's going to take time. Kind of more to that like sobriety versus recovery argument that like it just takes longer because it's a bigger thing to change.
Yeah. Will you repeat the question again? What's one thing that's like amazing now?
What's one normal thing that still feels foreign or amazing in sobriety? So like something that someone else would think is normal. And it had an example of like remembering your mornings. Like the average person remembers their morning.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you what I had for breakfast this morning.
Well, remembering your morning, like not being unconscious.
Yeah.
I
No,
was
I
unconscious
get.
this morning.
I don't know. This one's stupid. I'm having trouble coming up with one. This is just the absolute first thing that comes to mind is like how excited I get over a sparkling water, or especially, or even just a cold water, especially after a workout or something like that. I almost crave a cold water the same way that I would crave like a drink, like alcohol.
cold beer.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like after a long run, I don't know, and warm water doesn't do it for me. I want that cold water after like a 4 mile run. It hits a spot that is like still seems crazy to me, but is probably very normal to a lot of people.
Yeah. And I feel like that's so normal. We work with a lot of alcoholics. I think like older alcoholics and like our community IOP and stuff, that I hear that a lot more with, where they're like, I got to have all 4 different flavors, ice cold. Like, and I remember one guy we worked with, his wife even was like, is this like a problem? Like he's drinking these things all the time. I'm finding them empty all over the house, in the shower, in the crawl space, in the attic, just like, I don't know. I mean, it's not really bad, it's just water. Like they're definitely doing it in this kind of compulsive, addictive way. And in a sense, kind of substituting, but it's like substituting beer for seltzer water is probably pretty solid, in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
Pretty big level up.
And that's the game we're playing, is like finding substitutions,
Healthier things.
Yep. All right. What was next on the list?
If your recovery were a movie or song title, what would it be and why?
Gosh. Well, that one I can't answer right away.
I know that one needs a little thinking. And it's your recovery, not your addiction.
Yeah.
Because addiction, I always think like Man on Fire with Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
or like as a song like Under the Bridge Downtown, like something just darker and not as happy.
Yeah.
But Recovery I think should be good. You know what I'll say? I'll say just for the title alone, nothing necessarily about the movie, but The Pursuit of Happiness, the one with Will Smith and his son.
Yeah, that's great.
I think that's a good title for my recovery.
Yeah. Yeah, damn, that's a good one. I'm gonna have to come back to that one. I don't know.
Here's his V for Vendetta. There's so many goofy things you could say.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
It could be a song title too.
I mean, that's what I'm immediately. My head started going there.
Song title, since I did movie, I would do What a Wonderful World.
See, I was trying to come up with something that was a little more realistic, Lucas.
Oh my god, dude.
Well,
Some
it's not like
things are happy, okay?
yeah, well, it's not like, but it's also just not all rainbows. Like you still deal with life, and I think that's the even more beautiful thing about recovery is being able to get through the hard stuff as well, and like stay on the wagon. But life happens, people pass. You know, people lose jobs, people move home. I mean, life happens, and being able to navigate that. So I'm trying to think of a song that is still a pursuit of happiness, but you know, it takes a fight to get there.
Mm-hmm. But so much of that also, I feel like it just
So in that case, mine would be Rocky.
yeah. I was gonna say yours is A Beautiful Mind. No, I think I mean, just to push back on that, I think a lot of it is just like perspective, you know, and it's like I could look at the same world, the same situation and addiction and be like, I'm the victim. No one cares about me. No one wants to help me. It's just me against everyone out here, blah, blah, blah. And I could run into the same instance in recovery and be like, this isn't anything I can't get past. And like, it sucks, but I can figure it out. And like, what a wonderful life I have other than this problem. It really like puts my life into perspective. So I do stand by like What a Wonderful World. Not that like everything is just rainbows, but it's just that like my perspective has changed to where I can more see the good and the wonderful world that I live in rather than just the bad.
Yeah. No, that's good.
All right. I have a lot of movie jokes that aren't appropriate to say right now, but that we'll be saying when we get off air to describe you.
Okay.
All right. What does your addiction still try to negotiate with you today?
Well, you go first.
All right. I think about a specific instance where I was home with my wife and we invited my sister over and her husband. And I remember they brought a bottle of wine with them for them to drink. My wife and I are both sober. And they sat it on the counter. And I remember I saw it and I thought, what if I just picked up that bottle and started drinking it just straight out of the bottle right now? Like my mind was just like playing with like, what would people do? And then, you know, within like a second, I was like, that's insane. Like, why would I do that? Then my next thought was, what if I picked it up, took like a big gulp of it, and then when everyone looked shocked and in horror, spit it out into the sink and was like, oh, just kidding. I was like, that's also super crazy. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you thinking about right now? And then was like, I'm not touching that bottle and I'm done even looking at it. And that was like 7 years sober, maybe something around there. So it's like there's still just those like insane thoughts sometimes when I see, I don't really see drugs, but I feel like alcohol we see more in life, and I'll just be like, oh, what if I drank that? And it's really quick and I can like put it to bed quickly, but it's still kind of insane. Like, what if just one? What if just today?
I've had a very similar experience to that. And it probably like 8 years into my recovery, we had like a mountain weekend with my family, And I went with my mom and my sisters. I have 3 sisters. We all went to a vineyard one day. That's what they wanted to do. And I was tagging along. I just thought I'd walk, and vineyards are normally pretty. You're like up in the mountains or in elevated spaces. And I was like, oh, I'll just walk through the grapevines and stuff. But anyway, they went up to the bar and did like a tasting, and I was just sitting back away from the bar. I was like, man, I kind of want to go up there and like, and in my mind, it wasn't like go get wasted, but it was, I want to go do this experience with my family. Like, I'm sitting behind and looking at the rest of my family with their backs to me, like doing an activity together. And I kind of felt left out. And so I was like, I kind of want to just go join in with them. And then it quickly was like, yeah, that's crazy. Like, what, you're going to throw away everything that you've built? I'm like, what do you really have to gain from it? Because you still have the whole weekend with your family. It's not like you're left out. You're going to go back and participate in other activities. You just don't need to do this one with them. So yeah, I think that's just like, we have those impulsive thoughts that come up here and there. But even sooner than that, this just happened this past weekend. And as another example,
White Chip Wednesday.
yeah. But so I've been like on this, I've just been watching what I'm eating, because it's also tough for me with food, like my addictive personality with food. And as a person with an addictive personality, with this impulsivity, it is hard for me to like, I just go all the way to one extreme or the other. And it's hard for me to like do the in-between stuff. So I've been on this pretty strict, like very low carb, hardly any refined sugar. I mean, I guess diet is the word for it. I hate that word because I'd like to just normalize eating better and eating healthier, and it not be called a diet. It's just eating. But for some reason on Saturday, I was like, you know what? I think we went out with friends or something, or there was, or maybe my mother-in-law. A situation came up where I wasn't in complete control of my meal, so I was exposed to some carbs or to some sugar, refined sugar. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like give up for the day. Today is gonna be my cheat day. And it was that night, I was like going back and forth to the pantry and the refrigerator. And at first I grabbed like a Kringle thing from Trader Joe's that my wife gets sometimes, which is like a sweet treat. And she had them like diced up and stored in the freezer. So I get one of those first, heat it up. I go back and then I eat some Easter chocolates that she had left over. I go back, watch TV for like 30 more minutes with her. And I go back and get Sour Patch Kids that I found, I knew were like tucked back. I knew in my mind where they were, even though they weren't visible. I was like, I know that there's some Sour Patch Kids tucked back in this basket. Entry. And then my wife looks over at me and she goes, like, your ability to do this is really mind-blowing. Like, I don't know anyone who can go and like crush sweet after sweet the way that you do. Like, I would be sick. And if that's not an example of my addictive personality coming out full force, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one of like kind of going a different direction than alcohol or drugs, but just like how it can come into play in other areas of your life.
Yeah.
Diet, exercise, buying stuff, relationships. I mean, there's so many good ways. But yeah, 2 weeks ago, I was like losing like a half a pound, maybe not even that, like a quarter pound per week, like very realistic, attainable, not like unhealthy or crazy or anything like that. And then last week, I was like holding at the same weight. And then this past week, I gained like 2 pounds just by nature of just like cakes being around and ice cream being around and people eating sweets around, where I'm like, I mean, they're going to have some, I'll have some too. I'm not going to just be the only one not having it. And just all those same kind of excuses that I feel like go with like addiction. And it's not going to be the end of the world if I have a piece of cake, right? So I'm not trying to say that, but it's like not in line with the life I'm trying to live, the things I'm trying to put in my body, and just being more like intentional around that, and not as impulsive, just like cake, eat,
Yeah.
cream, yum, give me 2, give me 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw a video the other day of a guy who's like a life coach and super fit. And he was, I guess, invited onto a podcast, and the guy was like, come on, you're like always so strict and regimented. Like, in our podcast, we're going to eat cheeseburgers together. And he went and got like these huge McDonald's, look like triple decker cheeseburgers. And the guy was like, okay, look, I'll indulge with you. But he took 2 bites. He took like 2 big bites and then threw the rest of the cheeseburger out. I was like, that is what's hard for me. It's like if I take that first bite, I'm going all in. But it's a good reminder for me of like, that's why I know that I can't take the one drink. I know that I can't smoke the one joint. Like, dude, I'm just not wired that way. And that's okay. And I just have to know that about myself. Is that like, if I open that gate, we're going in.
No, you're so right. Because that's how it always goes for me too with diet, is like it's the one day, then it's the next day. The first day that I skip the gym, it's that much easier to skip the gym the next day. But those things aren't going to like totally derail my life. So then with alcohol and drugs, it's just much more dire consequences.
Yeah.
And I'm just not down for today.
And I think that that's part of my excuse internally, or my negotiations with myself. It's like, well, at least it's not, dude, I came out of a life of like doing heroin. Like I was doing some crazy stuff. I was putting crazy drugs in my body. Like, this cheeseburger's not going to be the death of me. What's it going to hurt?
Yeah.
So, blessing and a curse.
Oh, yeah. All right. Next one up. Have you ever had recovery guilt, feeling bad for doing well while others struggle?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that there have been some times where it's like, why me? I've also had like recovery anger, where it's like, why can't they get it? Yeah, I'm not really sure how to expand on that right now, but I've certainly felt it.
Yeah, same. And I agree that I don't know too much on how to expand with it. I mean, the frustration of someone that you love and care about not getting sober is like a double-edged sword, because like on the one sharp edge, I know that people were so frustrated with me for the exact same reason, and it took what it took. And then, I made the change with a lot of help and like prompting and pushing from people. But then on the other end, it's like, God, but I know like now that I'm on the other side of it, I feel like I know exactly what to do. And if they would just do this, or they would just do that. And so like getting into kind of like codependency, and just like wanting to control it, of like, gosh, if they could just go to this meeting with me, get a sponsor, do this, do that, get a therapist. Like, I just know that they could quit drinking, but they just won't do it. And that part's really frustrating, like not being able to control it. And then on the other end, like the guilt, I think like the deepest way that I've felt that is when I was 21. I was dating a woman for probably, 9 months, maybe coming up on a year. And I woke up and found her, she had passed away from an overdose. And that like really rocked my world. And I stayed out there like in addiction for another maybe 4 years after that. And that just really like fueled my addiction of just like, survivor's guilt of like, why am I alive and she's not? We did the same heroin. And then, yeah, that like recovery guilt of like, man, like, why do I get to like make it and get sober and stay sober and have all these like, you know, great things in life that come from recovery, and she doesn't, and just feeling like she like didn't get that chance because, you know, and this is before fentanyl, but even like heroin, you know, can just be so merciless and quick, you know, that just like one time and that's it. You get no more chances, no redos, you know, and it's just over. And I think that's
Yeah.
something I think about a lot. Less, I feel less of that guilt today, just knowing that, you know, I don't know why, but there's just a lot of people that make it and a lot of people that don't. And it's really, really, really sad and heartbreaking for the people that don't. But that same thing with control, that it's like, I can't change it. I can do what I can do to try to like help other people. I can be the person that I am to try to be like an example of what at least worked for me, but I can't make people do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I've had a pretty strange relationship with recovery communities because of like what you're saying. Or like I put my walls up a little higher with people in recovery, because my experience was I've lost a lot of people, a ton of people, that I'd gotten close with. In fact, like the sober living house that I went to, it was in Asheville, North Carolina. My first 3 roommates that I had. So like and as you, for people who don't know, like, you know, when you're in the house the longest, you kind of get seniority of like, and you get to pick which bedroom you want when people move out or which bed you want to move to. So I'd moved into 3 different rooms within my first house. And my first 3 roommates are dead today. They're gone. Then I moved into the 3-quarter house that there was after the sober living, and one of the guys that I was in that house with, he just passed away last year. And then I would have a number of friends that were going in and out. They were like getting sober for a few months. They were going back out and using. And then as time went on, and as more of my friends were passing away, I didn't want to open myself up to that anymore. It's like, okay, well, clearly in like living this way of life, a lifestyle of recovery, and opening myself up to this like group of people, there's a higher chance that more of people that I like develop a relationship with, like start to love, like they die. And that's scary. Like when we're so young, I mean, you know, I would say it's not a natural thing. It's like you're talking to them one night and everything's fine, and then they're not there the next morning. And they're like healthy, all that stuff. So I think at some point it was like I had to develop like some callus on my heart, and then just pull away from it to some degree. Like they cause some resentment there. I think even my wife would tell you today that I have a weird relationship with death. I don't think that I process it the way that normal people do, but I also think that I've experienced a lot more of it in the time that I've been alive than most people experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I get all that. It's such a tough line to walk of like, yeah, recoiling from like the tragedy and the death and the heartbreak, and not wanting to like invite any more of that into your life. But then also it's like, you know, if you don't, then you don't get the ability to help. Then I don't get the ability to help the people that I'm so uniquely suited to helping. Not
For
because not because I'm me, but just because I'm a person with addiction that is in recovery, you know, and has like been able to, for the most part, figure it out and like make it work. So it's like there's nobody better than people like that, in my opinion, to help someone who's trying to get clean and sober. But then it comes with those consequences of like people who don't make it, people who go in and out, and how just like frustrating and heartbreaking that whole process can be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't mean to say like I don't do any of it, you know.
No,
but
I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it like that. Just
Yeah.
in general, like the tough line to walk there of
yeah, it's just
it is
finding
really hard.
balance in that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah, that was a heavy one. Heavy one for number 6. Just snuck in there with questions about like, if your recovery was a movie, what would it be?
Yeah.
Like, here's a real heavy one.
Yeah.
Next one is, what's something someone said in early recovery that you hated, but later realized was true? You said you had one for this.
Oh yeah.
Let her rip then.
Top of mind is one of the first things was I had a mentor tell me, I don't want you to date anyone for the first year. I don't want you to have any kind of like romantic relationships. I was like, Rick, his name was Rick. I was like, Rick, what the hell are you talking about, dude? A year? You want me to focus on my own problems for a year? And the way he explained it to me, he was like, David, you're sick. And he used some choice words with it. He said I was sick as something. But he's like, you're a sick man, and like you're gonna attract sick people into your life. Like, we've got to spend some time working on you and get you to a healthier place where your mind is operating a little cleaner, and then you're going to attract healthier people into your life. And I just want you to trust me on that, that like it's going to benefit you in the long run to stay away from any engagements with other like romantic partners for now. Let's get you to a better place. And I can promise you the type of people that will come into your life at that point will be it'll be a different caliber of people. But that was really hard to, like, I didn't want to hear that. And I think when you're in early recovery, you're looking for any outlet, any, whether it's like getting a validation from a female or friends or buying stuff on Amazon. You're just looking for anything to make you feel better while you're going through that hard time. So that was hard to hear in the moment.
And relationships being a tough one, because like with all the other stuff, I'm kind of using things to like feel better. But with relationships, I'm using a person to feel better. Like selfishly, like I'm not really in a great place to be in a relationship. I don't even know what my intentions are or what I want in a relationship, but I'm just going to willy-nilly enter one and start throwing around words like, I love you, or I think you're so great, or I can't live without, just so I can get what I want, which is for you to stick around, be interested in me, tell me I'm enough, tell me I'm good looking, and just like overall validate me because I'm feeling really low. And I feel like to use another person for that is, very different than buying stuff on Amazon,
For sure.
It takes it up a notch. And that kind of ties into mine, that I was given that same advice, obviously in early recovery, but probably around 8 or 9 months, I thought I knew better and entered into a relationship that, had a lot of like red flags, not to do even with the person, but just like how long they were sober, how long I was sober, like moving in too quickly, like just all kind of stuff that, again, nothing bad about them, but just, just not a great thing, not a wise thing to do. And I had a lot of warnings to not do it, and I did it, and it didn't end well. And I remember feeling so like justified in my side of it, that like this person did this to me and they did that and all this stuff. And had like my side of the story that I could tell that had me as the victim. And I remember going to a meeting and someone talking about, the topic was something around that of like relationships and recovery. And I let the whole thing out there, and said it in this super victim-y way and blamed it all on the other person and all that, of just like, feel sorry for me. And I remember someone with a lot more time than me said, like, oh, I remember when I hadn't done a 4-step or looked at my part in things. I was just like, oh, I want to go curl up in a hole and die.
Dagger, dude.
That meeting could not have ended sooner. I don't think I ever went back to it. I was like afraid to be around that guy for years, like would avoid going to that meeting like the plague, I was just so embarrassed. And like still, when I think about that guy's name and he's around, I'll like feel this tinge of like shame and guilt and just like embarrassment, But like,
Mhm.
oh, like I just can't believe that I said that. He was so right, man. But
Yeah.
my initial feeling was like, yeah, like hate and like vitriol. I'm like, who does this guy think he is? And he's just, crapping on my share, and he has no like, sympathy for what I bet, just all that kind of stuff going further down the victim road. And then as time went on, just like, God, he was so right. And that just, yeah, I'm just embarrassed about it.
I think that's one of those stories that is like highlighted in your brain, but not his.
Oh,
And
for sure.
I think it would be awesome to go back to that guy if you know him
Mm-hmm.
and just share that story and everyone get a good laugh out of it because it sounds like it also gave you some sort of motivation.
Oh yeah. No, I mean it was such what I needed to hear at that time, whether I wanted to or not. I don't think I've ever seen him again. So I got sober in Asheville, and that's where he still lives.
Got it.
So I don't think I've ever seen him again, but I totally would if I saw him.
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, you got it. Cause I agree. Like, I think that was, I don't even think he would, not even, I don't think I like know that he would not remember that. I
Yeah.
mean, is this guy sober for 100 years, just dropping wisdom on people all the time like that without much thought of just like, I know the answer to that. It's like right up there. It's called a fourth step. Why don't you do one? And
Yeah.
quit being the victim and, whatever. Like, oh, I want to go stick my head in a hole.
Yeah. One more time. How was that question phrased? What was the wording of it?
What's something someone said in early recovery that you hated, strong words, but later realized was true?
Okay. I would say another like big one there is just that people were telling me like promising me that like, hey, your life is going to get so much better.
Mm,
That was something I hated to hear in the beginning because I think there was this like victim-y side of David that still wanted to protect his drug use. There was a part of me that was hoping that I wouldn't get better so that I would have an excuse to go back. So I think that was like one of the first main things said to me that I was like, shut up.
yeah.
Don't say that. You shut up right now.
Dude, it's so true. I feel like most people can relate to that of like, yeah, I wanted it to be miserable and 10 times worse so I could go back to my parents and be like, look, I tried it and look, it's worse now. So
Yeah.
good idea, y'all. Obviously didn't work, and it's time to go back to drugs and alcohol because even that was better than this. So like not wanting it to work is so wild to think back on now. Of just like, man, why would you not want your life to be better? And it's like, because that's how much drugs and alcohol meant to me. That it was like, I would rather keep doing drugs and alcohol and be right than, yeah, like really comes down to that. Like,
Miserable, but right.
yeah, but like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? I remember
Yeah.
people saying that early on where it was just like, I really like being right. Can I be right? Can I be right and happy? It's just like, nah, you're gonna have to be wrong on this one. But your life gets to get way better and you get to be so happy, and it's like a life beyond your wildest dreams, but you don't get to be right.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. Here's a good one. What's a hill you'll die on in the recovery world? I got mine.
Will you go first while I'm thinking?
Relapse is a part of recovery. I don't know why, but that always bothers me when people say it. And I feel like it's such like a kind of small like semantics thing,
Mhm.
but I mean, just in the nature of it, it's just like, no, like relapse is the opposite of recovery. Like relapse happens, and I don't think it should be like stigmatized or someone to be, made to feel shameful about it. But I feel like it is not recovery or a part of recovery. Like recovery is moving away from drugs and alcohol, building like a happy, fulfilling, meaningful, purpose-driven life. And I feel like relapse is the opposite direction of that. So
Mhm.
just like a weird, stupid semantic thing that really doesn't matter that much. But that is like a hill that I always die on when I'm talking to someone. They're like, well, relapse is part of recovery. And I'm just like, nope, no, it's not. And we need to have this conversation right now to talk about why it's not, because it's not. Okay, so let's go.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. That's a good one. Gosh, I'm struggling to come up with something. A hill that I would die on. Um, I mean, I don't know if this is necessarily like a hill that I would die on, but I have a lot of families talk to me that have younger, like young adults, that want them to just stop everything. You know, they want them to stop having nicotine, even when they're like trying to stop drinking or using heroin or fentanyl. And in my eyes, I'm like, hey, let's just like, if nicotine is what they need right now to take the edge off, let's let them have that other thing. Or like let's let them have that as long as we're coming off of these harder substances. So that's a conversation I have a lot. And this is a crazy story, a funny story, but it kind of takes this example way further. But I get a call one day from a parent who is really upset, because the guys were like goofing off in the house. They're being guys, they're young adults, and they happen to have a sex toy with a suction cup, and they were like throwing this sex toy around the house. They were trying to like land it on the fan or stick it to a door or throw it like a tomahawk and have this sex toy stick to the wall.
Dude, they were hitting it with a golf club
They were hitting it with a golf club.
to see if they could like hit it off a tee and get it to stick to the wall.
Okay, and I'm saying sex toy, it was a dildo, okay? The guys, they were having the time of their lives with a dildo, and this mom called me so upset that like this would be allowed to happen. And in my head, I was like, I'm just like, your son was doing like, there were like really hard drugs happening in the lives of these guys. There was like meth, fentanyl, heroin. Like, if they are having fun hitting a dildo with a golf club right now, I could care less. Like, to me, that's a win. Hey, we are winning right now because they are not off to the races doing some harder drugs. And that is like a super extreme, silly example, but a real one, that is to this day so funny to me.
Yeah. And what's wild is like the main guys that were involved in doing that I can think of, like 4 of them are still sober today.
Yeah.
You know? And so like, and it's just part of early recovery that there's like goofy. Is that inappropriate? 100%. Totally. Would I want to like shine a spotlight on that? We have now, but probably not. It's not something I would lead with. Of just like, yeah, we do fun stuff around here, like buy sex toys and hit them with golf clubs and see if we can get them to stick to the wall. It's like, probably wouldn't want to tell anyone that. But it is just like, in essence, like it is just like true, and it's the reality of like, hey man, that's what guys in early. I mean, it's not what they do, like they have to do that, but like often that's the kind of stuff we see.
Yeah,
the guys are doing goofy stuff, playing pranks, putting milk in Tupperware and sticking it under a guy's bed, putting cheese on someone's forehead, buying sex toys and hitting them with golf clubs, like just kind of acting a little wild and rambunctious, but doing it all 100% sober, having like hit a meeting that day, done therapy, done group, doing like that activity as a group, smiles on their face, thinking like for the first time, like, man, maybe I could be sober. Like this is all right. This was a fun day.
And I would say that there's some trends of guys that we've worked with, younger adults, and I would say a trend would be higher energy. Like the guys tend to be like a little higher energy than normal. I would say ADHD, a little more ADHD than normal, and I would say a little more impulsive than normal. And I think ADHD, those 3 things kind of all go together, like energy levels, ADHD, impulsivity. But when you strip a guy with those things, like strip drugs or alcohol or coping mechanisms away, like that energy is going to show back up. You have to have outlets for it. And sometimes those outlets are like super goofy, funky stuff. But if it is not like harming themselves or others, and it's not going back to drugs and alcohol, like I'm going to be pretty flexible with where the line's drawn there. And I think that is just the reality of the situation, that they're going to do like goofy, crazy stuff and to pass time and get that energy out. I mean, it comes down to this like purging of energy.
And that's why a lot of our clinical groups are all based around like physical activity and getting out and like actually doing stuff, because we know these guys go crazy in the classroom setting, learning about the neurobiology of addiction. And not that that's not important and doesn't have its place, but you do that every day for 3 hours, 6 hours a day in like PHP, and these guys are going to go nuts. These guys, these ones that we're talking about, young adult men, trend towards ADHD. And I think ADHD encompasses everything else you said. It's like just that. We work with really ADHD guys a lot of the time. And yeah, they need outlets.
Yeah.
And if you don't give them outlets, they will create ones like
Yep.
the one that we just listed. So we try to be proactive and come up with stuff so that they don't have to get to the point that they're up to shenanigans like that. But more times than not, they're still going to get up to shenanigans like that. And it's just trying to find the line. And obviously, like we found out about that. And it's like, all right, man, we're like confiscating the sex toys. I'm taking them all. I'm throwing them away. We're getting them out of the house. Like, we're still going to like clean it up, but I'm not going to like give these guys consequences for it or make them feel like super bad about it or anything like that. Cause I know it's just part of it.
Yeah. How much do you hate me right now for bringing that up?
Oh no, it's fine. I mean, it's true. It's true. It's just if I was like talking to a parent on the phone about like what we do, you know, that obviously would not be a story I would bring up. But like it's true and it did happen, you know. So like if someone asked me about it, I'd be straight about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just stuff like that, man. Yeah, it makes me think about too. There was another case where there was a guy whose parents really didn't want him to do nicotine, and I feel like it's the other side of that, like not as funny, but you know, so parents were like, all right, none of his. We use a TrueLink card system for like as like a prepaid debit card for guys, and you know, we don't want any of that money going towards nicotine. And we just kind of respected where the parents were at, tried to make our point of like, hey, it's not the end of the world, all things considered. But because of like that kind of prohibition of it, we found out that he was like stealing nicotine from his roommates, and he was like scrounging the cigarette butt ashtray and like emptying out all of the tobacco. And then he like made a water bottle bong with like a socket and was like smoking like the same way that like a 15-year-old would smoke pot in their parents' garage. You know, he was smoking tobacco, where it's just like, man, like I would way rather him just smoke cigarettes and not be stealing and not be lying and sneaking and making makeshift tobacco bongs and stuff like that. And so sometimes it seems like it can kind of make more trouble than there would otherwise be.
Yeah. For sure.
That's a good point. What
I mean,
role?
we got one more.
2 more.
Okay.
What role does humor play in your recovery?
Well, I get joked on that it's not as much of a role as y'all.
Yeah, not much for you.
But I would say recovery, and I mean, I would say addiction too, is like I've had to make humor out of that. Like, and I think that's something that gets frowned upon. And it's happened to me several times where I'm talking to a person who's struggling with alcohol or drugs, and their family's in the room too. And I'm making light of it and jokes of it. And the family's getting very stern and serious. And they're like, why would you joke about that? And, you know, my response is like, because we have to. Like, we have to make light of this to make it okay. And like, he needs to know that too. That like he can get past it. We can look back on this time and laugh. I've been in his shoes, and like I'm at a place now where I can laugh about it. And so I would say, you know, I've kind of made just recovery humorous and addiction. And that can be frowned upon sometimes, but I think it's necessary.
Yeah, and I always bring up that quote of like the difference between tragedy and comedy is time. Sometimes I do think there has to be a little time in between it of like in the moment, it's very serious and tragic, but especially when someone's like doing better 4 or 5 years sober, then I feel like it's kind of easier to joke about it looking back. But humor plays a huge part in my recovery, joking around, laughing, teasing each other, giving each other a hard time, but all like out of love and from like a playful place. But I like need that in my life. I crave it. I've got to have it with other guys in my life. And my wife knows it too, unfortunately, that it's just kind of part of the deal. And that's like why we can be together, because she just gets it and is fine with it. She doesn't really give it back that much, but it's just like, oh, I knew you were going to say that. I don't know why I'm making her sound like an old country woman, but
Gonna
oh,
say,
I knew you were going to say that.
you did an accent on the last podcast too. You were like, "You guys are just so normal."
Yeah.
Dude, you got to cut the country accent. It doesn't fit you.
No, no. But yeah, I think that is huge. Last one. How did your identity change when you got sober, and which part surprised you?
Dang.
Another heavier one,
Yeah, that's a heavy hitter too. Why do we have to end on that one?
because let's see. Yeah, because we do.
How did my identity change? I mean, it changed drastically because my life before I got sober was drugs and alcohol. Like it revolved around them, and almost every aspect of like every component of my life was like, where am I getting drugs from? How am I getting the money to buy the drugs? When can I meet the drug dealer? Where am I? I mean, all day was like asking myself questions on how, when, why, where am I getting my fix? And then I would finally get high, and that high would wear off, and then those questions resurface. And it was just a game. I mean, we just stayed on that merry-go-round. So when I got sober, I had no clue who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I had to rebuild everything and like start trying new hobbies and new things that I could piece into my life. And um, so I would say like my whole personality and identity was shifted and was rebuilt. And then I would say how it shocked me was just by the amount of joy I was able to find in simple things. And like going snowboarding or getting a paddle board on the lake or going to a live concert. Just, I thought that I was never going to be able to find joy the way that I did when I was high. Um, and the highs never really got as high. But I was shocked at how much joy and happiness I could experience in just everyday things.
Well, thanks for stealing mine. No, that's a big one. It's like I don't even know that I would like claim that I had an identity. It was just like whatever I needed to be in front of whoever was talking to me. I could be this person if I needed to be. I could be that person if I needed to be. I could be into this thing. I could be totally against it. And it would all just kind of shape shift. Or I would shape shift depending on who I needed to be with who was around me. And so I think really in recovery was like the first time that I actually tried to figure out who I was, like authentically. Like, what do I really like? Doesn't matter what other people think about it. Doesn't matter what's cool or if they like it or if I'll be teased for it or if I'll be accepted for it. Like, what am I really into? And I think that's like such a process that doesn't just happen just because I, got into recovery and takes like years of time. But yeah, I think that was really it, of like having no identity and then figuring out what my identity is and like what mattered to me, values, um, hobbies, interests, whatever. Like
Mhm.
without the the tainting of other people's opinions about it and whether they approved of it or not. And not like in like a moral way of like, well, I don't care if people think lying's bad. Like it's just what I like to do, and that's authentically me. I mean, just like music that I liked or things I like to do or whatever.
Mhm.
Or is probably the big way. And then, and which part surprised you? Hmm. Which part surprised you? Oh, probably just that I could be like liked and accepted by people while being truly who I am. Probably that. Like that just seemed insane to me. Of like, no, I need to carefully curate like exactly this persona that as many people as possible will like, and I can always shift it around a little bit depending on who I'm around. But the idea that I could just like be me and be accepted for that, liked for that, not by everybody, but by like people who matter to me.
A chameleon.
A chameleon. And not have to be a chameleon and just like, just take stances of like, oh, I really love this car. And it's like, oh, not for me, or, oh, I hate that car. I think they're pretty cool, like,
Yeah.
it's like something that I feel like I couldn't really do,
Yeah. You want to hear my biggest example of this?
Yeah.
It was like takes me back to elementary school. And I have always loved like opera style music and Broadway. You know this today. I'm like a big Broadway guy. I love to go to plays, musicals, and I love classical music, opera style music. Like from a kid, from like 6 years old, I feel like I would always like something about that music would just move me, like give me chill bumps. And it has a lot to do with vocal ranges too. But I felt like I had to hide that my whole childhood, and like had to go into school and be like, oh, I like Limp Bizkit, and no, I like Lil Wayne, and I listen to just Jay-Z, and and I didn't like those things, but I had this like whole other identity that I had to hide.
Mm-hmm. So true. I can relate with that 100% for just all the different things. Like the video games I liked, right? Because it's like cool to like Madden and 2K and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I really like Final Fantasy and Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like, nerd, loser, get out of here. And today it's just like, oh, well, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't like define me as a person. It's just like one thing that I like. So if you don't like me for that one thing, then I'm probably better off without you anyways,
Yeah. That's a good way to end this episode, is that was a big tip given to me in early recovery. I was like, you know how many people I'm going to lose in my life that aren't going to want to hang out with me because I'm not like going to the bars and drinking. And my mentor was like, and why do you need them in your life? Like, if they're willing to boil your relationship down to that, of like, I don't want to be around you anymore because you don't drink or you don't use drugs, then like, I can promise you, David, that's not the kind of person you want to keep around you anyway. So that was a big wake up call for me.
And that's the quote from Dr. Seuss: those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind.
Boom. That's the pod.